Hi friends, this is Tony from Historic American Homes, back with part 3 of this video series, Designing a Small Modern Home with Sketchup and Layout. In the previous episode, we looked at file organization and the basic modeling tools, and so now we're going to apply those to creating a patio door. Let's get started. Let's put the pieces together now and make one of these patio doors from scratch. We'll be using the commands we already looked at, and I'll add I'll add one or two more. So I've copied one of them over from the building over here into the open space where we can just sort of look at it for reference. But I'm not actually going to measure off of it. We're going to go to marvin.com's website. That's a good brand of windows and doors. And I'm going to be looking at their Ultimate collection. Then I went to their tools and documents page, and from there I went into their technical PDF downloads and looked up a download that shows the dimensions of the door. We've got the frame. We've got a flange that sticks up here, which we're not going to put in our model, not necessary, but that's for reference. That's where the door gets attached to the outside face of the wall. So everything to the right of that is inside the wall opening. And that little piece that sticks out to the left is on the outside face, and that's where your outside trim and siding comes in. We've got the door frame with some glass in it, and we've got a door sill at the bottom. And then on the other download, we have elevations of the doors that give the overall dimensions of the door, including its frame. We're going to do the 6 foot wide by 8 foot high door. So this shows me the width of the 6 foot door, and the frame size, FS stands for frame size, is actually 5'11", and that's to allow a 1/2 inch gap on each side of the door when it's installed in a 6 foot wide opening in the wall. And as far as the height, we'll look at the little table in the bottom right. An 8 foot high door has a frame size of 7 feet 11.5 inches. Same thing, it allows a 1/2 inch gap at the top of the door. So we're actually going to make our door with its frame to be 5'11" wide, 7 foot 11.5 high. And we are going to use this, but simplified. We don't need this much detail in our model, and we don't need to use these awkward dimensions of 21/32 of an inch. So I'll round things. That'll become 7.5 inches. The frame thickness here is about 1.5 inches. The door frame is about 1 3/4 inches. All right, let's get into our model and do it. So we're back in the model here, and I'm going to start with T for tape measure, draw myself a couple of guidelines just so I can sort of lay out a space to work in. Draw another one off of that side in the red direction. Okay, that gives me a starting point. I'm going to draw a rectangle, R, starting here where they intersect. Pull my cursor out, looks like I need 1.5, 7.5. Okay, that gives me my rectangle, which is going to become the profile of my door frame. The the front piece, we're going to M for move, control for copy, pull that back 1 inch. That'll be the little piece that projects out in front of the wall. I'm going to repeat that M and control, pull it back 1 3/4 inches. And then I'm going to have a step back in the frame of 1/2 inch. And that front is going to go in 1 inch. I can erase, E for erase the bits I don't need here. And that's the profile of my door frame. Now I'm going to right click and make it a group. I'm going to right click again and edit the group. So now I'm inside the group, and I'm going to be editing this. I'm going to use a new tool called Follow Me, which we haven't used yet. And what I'm going to do is draw a path, a line, a set of lines, which will create a path. And then I will use the Follow Me tool to extrude this profile along the path. And it'll go up the side of the frame, across the top, and it'll come back down again. So I will start with L for line. I'm going to come off this corner here, use my up arrow to tell SketchUp to draw vertically. and I'm going to type in 7 foot 11.5 inches and enter. Now I'm going to go in the red direction, 5 foot 11 inches, and again in the vertical direction using my arrow down to the ground surface where we started. Okay, that's my path. I'm going to select those 3 lines which define my path. I'm holding down the Shift key and just clicking on each one. Go up to my Tools menu, Follow Me, Control F. Now it seems to have disappeared, the path, but it's still remembered by SketchUp. So what I'm going to do now is click on the profile that I want to extrude along that path. So I'm going to click on that little funny rectangle we drew earlier. And there it is. There's our door frame. Next thing I'm going to do is draw the sill. So let's come down here, and we'll use this face as a convenient surface to draw on. I'm going to start with another rectangle, R for rectangle, click on one corner, pull it, and type in the dimensions I want, 1 3/4 inches by 7.5 inches. Got that right, good. Make a group out of that. Right click, make group, right click, edit group. I'm going to grab that front line and copy it back. That's M with Control for copy. I'm going to pull it back in the green direction. I'm going to press the left arrow, which is the green arrow, and I'm just going to let my mouse hover over that point on the frame, which is where I want that to go back. I don't happen to remember exactly the distance. I don't need to because I've got that reference point. Okay, so then I'm going to do this front sloping part of the door sill that sheds the water to the outside. I'm going to M Control to make a copy. I'll go down 1/2 inch. And then I'm going to make another copy down 1/2 inch. And the sill is actually sloped between those 2 points. So I use those as a reference to do the actual line I want. Now I can erase the bits I don't need. And that is my door sill profile. Now I'm going to use P for push-pull to click on that. O for orbit. Come over here and click on this face, and I've pulled it all the way through to the other frame. The next step now will be to cut this bit out of the frame, because right now I've got the frame and the sill overlapping. And there are many ways to do a lot of the things we do in SketchUp, many different approaches, combinations of tools. I will use a different approach on each end of the frame. So I'm going to start by going back into my group here, and I'm going to select, I just pulled a selection window from left to right, and that selects everything within the window. You can see I've selected the bottom of the frame there, and then I'm going to move that vertically, M for move, up to the top of the threshold. I'm going to zoom in and orbit around until I'm at a convenient spot, and then I'm going to draw a line across from that point on the red axis to the intersection. Then P for push-pull, I will pull that down. Now let's orbit around this direction and see what's going on here. We've got some complicated geometry. We've got a step coming down into that slope. So here's one way to do it. I'm going to start with line. I'm going to fill this little triangular space with a line and a line. It creates a surface here, which I can use P to push. Take a look around again. Almost there. And I'm going to repeat that process. One more line from this point straight down. Now I can grab this little piece, and with P for push-pull, I can bring it out and erase the bits I no longer need. E for erase. Now let's go over to the other leg and do something similar, but using a slightly different approach. I'm going to start again by selecting with a window from left to right so that it takes only what's within the window, and I'm going to move that back up. And now I'm just going to use some move commands. I'm going to start with T for tape measure. I'm going to double click on that edge to give me a guideline along that edge, and I'll double click on that edge to give me another guideline on that edge. I will grab this edge here and move it vertically along that guideline. Oh, forgot a step. Need to go inside here and draw this across and pull this down like we did on the first one. Now I can grab this edge and move it from that point straight down to where it intersects. And I can grab this edge and move it straight down. And there I am. I have the same geometry at both ends. So that's two different ways to get the same geometry. There are other ways using other techniques. It's just a question of what's fresh in your mind. It depends on the individual situations, which are the most effective. Anyway, that worked great. So that's our frame. Now let's make a door to go in it. We are going to make two doors, but they're going to be identical. So I'm going to start by drawing a rectangle from this top corner where the door fits in the frame, and we want the opposite corner of that door to be down here somewhere to the midpoint, wherever that is. Where's the midpoint? I just let the mouse run over that edge. It should snap to the midpoint at a certain. Okay, midpoint, great. So this is going to become my door. First thing, I'm going to select it all, make it a group, and then double click to go inside the group and edit it. I'm going to use P push pull to bring it out flush with the edge of the frame. Then I'm going to use F, which is offset. I've just pressed F and click on an edge and pull the mouse in the direction I want, and my door frame is going to be 4 3/4 inches, so I typed in 4.75, and it brought in around all four edges lines parallel to the edges. I could have made it 3, could have made it 2, but I chose to make it 4.75. Now I'm going to take this face, and using P, I'm going to, you see what I can do with that? P, I can pull it and push it through so that I'm going to push it to line up with this edge, and that makes it disappear, and now I have my door frame. Next step is to put a piece of glass in that door. I'll use a kind of similar approach. Start with a rectangle, point to point. P for pulling it out. I'll make it 3/4 inch thick. It's double paned glass, so 3/4 inch will be about the right thickness. Select it all, triple clicking, right click to make it a group. And now I've got to push this piece, what's going to be glass, back into the door frame because it's sticking out in front of the door. So M for move, click on that corner, push it in the direction I want to go. It finds the surface behind it. That's a good start. Now I'm going to do that one more time. I'm just going to click anywhere, pull it in the direction I want it to go along the green axis. I'll type in 1/2 inch, 0.5 for 1/2 inch, and that recesses it 1/2 inch into that opening. All right, one more step. We're going to make this a piece of glass. We haven't applied materials or textures to any surfaces here, and we'll do that later when we're working on finishes, but I do like to do the glass up front just because it really helps to visualize the model as you're building it. So we are going to go to the materials menu here, and we're going to look at normally that's the way you will find it. when you first use it. So in all the materials that are in the model. Or I can go to the materials list, which is what I'm going to do. I'm going to find a folder that says glass and mirrors. Open that folder up, and then I have a bunch of choices. I have some mirror elements. They don't actually show reflections, but they kind of look mirror-like. I've got various different translucent textures. I've got glass block up here. And then I've got several different glass to choose from. We have this kind of a blue glass, but I'm going to just try something else just to see how that looks. I'm going to use this translucent glass. And now that I've done that, I realized I should have done one step before. So I'm going to escape. I'm going to go into the group. I just double clicked on the window and I went into the group. I'm going to apply that glass surface inside to that face. Now that piece of glass is 3/4 of an inch thick, so it's got two big faces, one on each side, and I just applied it only to the one side. You can see the back side is still white, so I'm going to make that glass as well. That way it reads as glass from both directions. I could have applied the texture to the entire group rather than those two faces, but there's a reason why I didn't, and I'll show that to you now. Now that we've got a frame with some glass in it, let's select each of those. So click on the first one, shift, click on the glass to get both pieces, and make a copy. That's M, Control, and I'm going to copy it from that corner over to that corner. So I have two of them now. Looking good, but I see one thing that I don't like, that the clouds are identical in both. You know, the reflection is not realistic because they both look exactly the same. So I'm going to show you how we can fine-tune our textures just a little bit. There's a lot more you can do with textures than what I'm doing here, but this is the first step. I went into my little group, which is the glass, and I clicked on the surface. Now I'm going to right-click on it, and I have the option that says Texture Position. Lots of things you can do to play with the textures here, but all I'm going to do is just click and drag my mouse, and that allows a different portion of that texture image to show up. That looks fine. I'll just leave it there and see what we've got. Now right-click, Done. Click out of it so I can see the results. I think that looks better. They're not identical, at least. Last step is to select all my pieces, get them sill as well. Right click over that and make a group of the whole thing. So I now have a nice grouped patio door that I can use in a model. Now this door, as it is a nice three-dimensional depiction of a patio door, and for making the model as we see it here, that would suffice. That would be enough to do it. I've made it a group. If I made this a component, which I think I will just go ahead and do, make component, give it a name, patio door 6'8" by 8'0", and I think this is going to be 2 because I think I already made one, and you can't have components, two different components with the same name. So I've made it a component, and I would do that if I wanted to make lots of copies and then I change my mind, decide I want to add a doorknob. I can add it to one of them, and poof, they've all got doorknobs. So made our door, it's a component, it's a nice 3D image. If all you're going to do is make a 3D model, this works great. Now if you're planning to do construction documents from your 3D model, like I plan to do, then there's one more step, and I will give you a glimpse into this door component here, which is the one I'm actually using in the model to show you what's different about it. So let me go in here and grab it. So there's my component, and I'm going to go inside, double click on it to enter the component, and I have two elements to it. There's the three-dimensional part that we see here selected, and you see when I selected it, all these others which are identical copies got selected as well. And if you look at the entity info window, you will see that it's got a tag called concept 3D. So this is the 3D element. If I click on the other piece and select that one, it's on the tag concept 2D. And the way this is set up is that when I create scenes, which you see at the top of the window here, I can choose to turn those tags on or off. So if I want to see the 3D element, I have the 3D tag on and the 2D tag off. If I want to see the 2D element, I have the 2D tag on and the 3D tag off. So if I'm doing a floor plan, I want to see the 2D. I don't want to see all this other stuff. So by doing these two different pieces within the component on these two separate layers, I can have one component in the model that appears two different ways depending on how I'm looking at it. If I'm looking at it in a nice perspective view, I see the door, and I will turn off the 2D for the moment so you can see how that looks without the 2D element. And then if I want to see a floor plan, I will go up to my scene here where I've created a floor plan. And what you're seeing here is what will become eventually a floor plan with, here are the doors, showing the door swings. And those are the 2D parts of the component. I've also got fixtures showing up here. And I've got these heavy lines are not walls, they're actually the finished panels that are put onto the walls. So everything you see here is going to eventually go into my construction drawings in the form of thin lines. And that will be overlaid with another view of the same, taken at exactly the same spot where I have the walls, and the walls will show up as a thicker line. And when I put those two views together, those two scenes that we see up at the top together in one construction drawing, we'll end up in a nice, clear, thick, solid line indicating the walls, and thinner lines to differentiate the plumbing and the kitchen cabinets and the doors and windows. That's a lot of information to cover in just one video. There's a lot of modeling techniques in there and file organization information. So I think I'll just bring this to a close. And in the next video, we will look at the kitchen and the master bathroom, like I promised before, and talk more about interior planning again. So hopefully this was useful. If you liked what you saw, please hit the like button. Please subscribe. I will try to come out with a new video every 4 or 5 days. Carry this model further until we've gone all the way to construction documents. Along the way, I will be talking about other related design decision issues like walls and the best kind of insulation, depending on the climate you're in. The same with the roofs. Choices in finish materials. We're going to have fun doing a fireplace on this wall. Maybe I'll do a little more built-in furniture on this side, something like a bookcase and a cabinet for stereo equipment. So please hit the like button, please subscribe, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Have a great day. Bye-bye.